a sitting member of Congress makes a comment that shocks the country. Within hours, outrage spreads online, calls for accountability explode across social media, and then Donald Trump steps in, responding in a way that leaves even Ilhan Omar visibly unsettled. Today, we're unpacking not just what happened, but why this clash between Omar and Trump matters for America's future. I've been following politics for years. I've seen scandals come and go, but this one? It felt different, because what unfolded around Ilhan Omar wasn't just another controversy. It was a revealing moment about where our country stands and where it might be heading. Let's rewind. It all started when Charlie Kirk, the activist who built Turning Point USA into a major conservative force, passed away unexpectedly. Regardless of anyone's politics, most Americans agree there's a basic level of respect you show when someone dies, especially someone who was a husband and father. But Congresswoman Ilhan Omar saw it differently. Within hours of the news, she shared a post comparing Kirk's political legacy to a Frankenstein story, a metaphor implying that the forces he'd created had turned against him. For many, it came off as heartless. A sitting member of Congress using a literary insult in the wake of someone's death? That struck a nerve. People across the political spectrum said it crossed a moral line. Her follow-up comments only made things worse. She referred to Kirk's influence as something destined for the dustbin of history, suggesting his work belonged to a darker chapter best forgotten. And that's when the backlash erupted. Democrats, independents, conservatives, everyone seemed to agree. It wasn't the time or place, but then came the moment that changed everything. Donald Trump, never one to stay silent, saw an opening. He took Omar's remarks and flipped the entire conversation. On Truth Social, he criticized Omar's tone and questioned how someone in her position could speak so harshly about a fellow American. He used it to launch a broader argument about patriotism, leadership, and what kind of moral compass our elected officials should have. It was classic Trump, reframing a controversy into a bigger cultural debate about who represents American values. Omar, for her part, appeared rattled. When she went on CNN to defend herself, the exchange quickly grew tense. Host Caitlin Collins pressed her about why she shared the Frankenstein reference. Omar tried to clarify, saying she didn't necessarily endorse every line of what she shared, but the damage was done. The public saw a leader on the defensive, struggling to explain a moment that simply looked mean-spirited. What made it worse was her dismissive reaction to calls for accountability. She brushed off critics as ignorant or hateful, but that tone only deepened the divide. And this is where Trump's political instincts kicked in. He wasn't just talking about Omar's words anymore. He was talking about belonging, respect, and loyalty to the nation. By doing that, he transformed a social media scandal into a cultural flashpoint. Suddenly, people were asking bigger questions. What does it mean to represent America? Where's the line between free speech and disrespect? And how far is too far when it comes to political rhetoric? At the same time, Omar began losing support, not just from critics, but from within her own party. Many Democrats stayed quiet. Progressive allies offered vague statements about moving forward, but few defended her directly. That silence spoke volumes. It showed that Omar's comments had isolated her politically. Meanwhile, Trump capitalized on the contrast. He and J.D. Vance attended Charlie Kirk's memorial service, where tens of thousands gathered to pay their respects. Their presence was symbolic, standing in unity, honoring a political opponent, showing compassion in a moment of grief. The comparison was devastating for Omar. She looked cold. Trump looked composed. The backlash against her wasn't just political. It became a cultural conversation about empathy, leadership, and the moral expectations we still have for public officials. Even news anchors who usually lean sympathetic toward Omar began pressing her on whether she'd gone too far. That's when you know a politician's in trouble, when even friendly media can't defend the tone anymore. The deeper issue wasn't legality or deportation talk, it was trust. Once people start doubting a leader's basic compassion, recovery becomes almost impossible. Omar's brand had always been about speaking boldly, challenging power, breaking boundaries. But in that moment, her outspokenness came across as cruelty, and it cost her. Her approval numbers reportedly began slipping, donors grew hesitant, and whispers of potential challengers started circulating. And Trump? He did what he's always done best: take his opponent's fire and turn it into fuel. He presented himself as the voice of traditional decency, the defender of respect and unity. Whether you agreed with him or not, it was politically effective. That's why this episode wasn't just another headline, it was a test of character. And it revealed how fragile political momentum can be. Because in America, the real battleground isn't just policy. It's about values, about who embodies them, who violates them, and who connects with the public's sense of right and wrong. Ilhan Omar's misstep reminded voters how quickly outrage can turn into lasting political damage. Trump's response reminded them how powerfully emotions and symbolism still drive our politics. The takeaway? In the age of instant outrage, leadership demands restraint. You can win arguments, but lose your humanity in the process. And for many Americans watching this unfold, it wasn't about left or right anymore. It was about basic decency. Music swells. So, what do you think? Did Trump handle this moment effectively? Should Omar face political consequences? Or has the backlash gone too far? Let's talk about it in the comments. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video, because the story of how we talk to each other as Americans is far from over. Music fades out.